Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on the Living Life Naturally podcast. So thrilled that you've come back today. We're talking about all things menopause, perimenopause related today. And so, of course, as always, I would like to offer you that free chat with me, which you'll find in the show notes if you have some questions about perimenopause, menopause, anything that you're dealing with. I am more than happy to help you. So it's a free call, and just look in the show notes below. But today I have with me Stacy Brix. She's a board certified family nurse practitioner with over 7 years experience of caring for women. And her expertise lies in guiding women through the significant life stages of perimenopause and menopause. She's also had an additional 5 years of experience as a birth and postpartum doula and as a certified lactation counselor, in addition to 4 years as an RN specializing in women's health. So beyond this, she's completed mindfulness training at the Mindfulness Institute at the Jefferson-Myrna Brind Center of Integrative Medicine. And she's now pursuing a specialty certification as a psychiatric nurse practitioner. Funny you should say that, because my daughter started down that path as well. So Stacy's background informs her holistic and evidence-based approach to her transformational group coaching programs. And she has a goal to empower her clients to navigate this transition smoothly while transforming into the best versions of themselves. So welcome to the Living Life Naturally podcast, Stacy.
Thank you, Linda. I'm happy to be here.
So thrilled to have you, because I just love talking about this topic. And I'd love to know why you really got into the perimenopause, menopausal space.
So I've been working clinically for quite some time, as you said, but in my clinical work, realized that many women are feeling quite lost when it comes to their symptoms, their perimenopausal symptoms, their menopausal symptoms. Even women who are high-powered professionals or high functioning and, very smart people are having a hard time navigating the world of perimenopause. There's books, there's articles, there's lots of information out there, but it's hard to navigate. And there's a lot of misinformation too, which is orienting. So I talk to more and more women about, the ins and outs of it, and provide a lot of education, and realize that there's a need for it outside of the clinical environment, and that it's well coupled with health and wellness coaching, where women can work towards specific health goals related to their perimenopausal symptoms or menopausal symptoms, or just towards their goals for a better, healthier self, where they can be more productive and more efficient, or just better. So that's how I got into that, really transitioned into it. Mm-hmm.
And what you say is so true. And we don't often address this when it comes to perimenopause, but women wonder why they're suddenly losing focus. They maybe have a lot of brain fog that they're contending with. And there's not a lot of information out there. I mean, it's certainly one of the things that I address with my clients. But I know you work with busy professional women, and it's so important for them to know that, hey, this is just a normal thing that you're going through, and here's how you can help it. So do you have a lot of people not realizing that is all a part of the whole perimenopausal thing?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of women have been very successful in the past decade of their career, for example, and they're gaining a lot of momentum, maybe in their late 30s, early 40s, or mid 40s, early 50s. And all of a sudden they start to have this brain fog, and they don't feel like themselves. And maybe they feel rage once in a while at work, lack of patience, or they physically just feel more tired. They aren't sleeping well. Sometimes they feel anxious, and they're like, I'm not an anxious person. Why do I feel this way? It sneaks up on people, and it often gets misdiagnosed as insomnia or anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder or depression, when really the underlying issue is a hormonal shift that may need tending to, whether or not the woman chooses that or not. But, and I also see women in their late 30s having some of these symptoms and not realizing that it could be related to some hormonal shifts related to perimenopause. And I think it's important to let women know that, so that they don't feel so lost and disoriented.
Right. So I know on my own journey, I was really, I knew I was getting into menopause, and I was only in my mid to later 30s. And of course, the doctors back then just would not acknowledge that any woman, the whole thing was, you are too young to be in menopause. They don't listen to women who might go in to say, I'm pretty sure I'm in perimenopause or menopause, and they just won't listen. Even I think to a degree, going to a female doctor, and I know it's beginning to change now, but what happened to me was I then went down the road of them saying, well, you've got all of these problems, which I did have problems with my ovaries and with I had a very, very badly tilted womb, and sorry, good English expression, that's what they call it. Problems with cysts and fibroids. And so they never gave me an option of trying to find a healthy solution. Instead, at age 39, I had a hysterectomy. And, now I know things about health that I didn't know back then. It makes me wonder, is there a way that I could have circumvented that just in the way that I live such a healthy lifestyle? Because I think that that's something that people don't often teach us, which is why it's great that you're a nurse practitioner and a coach, because you can teach that whole bit that's missing. Because when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle, so many of the sicknesses and diseases that we find ourselves up against can really be helped.
Yeah, and not all women want hormone therapy and menopause. We want to be able to do other, learn techniques to, calm their nervous system when they're having a hot flush or feeling rage or feeling anxious, or they want to work on other health goals like moving their body more, but feel overwhelmed by all of the things in their life. So they don't know how to work it into their life in a sustainable, enjoyable way. That's the important part of health coaching. But, also for you, it sounds like you didn't have access to the right information. No one got to talk to you about what might happen without your ovaries to your body, with symptoms you might have.
I did have my ovaries, even though they were eaten up with endometriosis. Because I was only 39, he refused to take them out. And so he had to laser off all the endometriosis. Later on down the line, I had such problems with them, I had to have them taken out anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah. And did you experience a pretty massive shift at that point?
I feel like I went through two menopauses, because my ovaries were not optimally healthy. And of course, I went through that shift from having all my parts to just being left with my ovaries. So that was a shift. And at that point, I didn't know any better. They did put me on HRT, which I look back now and I think, I don't know how I survived some of the information I got. So then when I had to have my ovaries out, and it was, there was no other way, then it was like going into menopause all over again. So yeah, really do some research for you ladies out there. You really are not looking at Dr. Google, because there's a lot of confusion out there, but being able to find somebody to talk to, even if it's somebody like Stacy and myself, she's a nurse practitioner and a health coach, and I'm a board certified health coach. So, talk to somebody that you can get some some information to where you can have some alternatives before you go down any of those roads.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm interested to hear you say that, you know, for a lot of people, a lot of women, they may be looking for something as simple as exercise. And I think that they don't realize the power of that movement and that exercise and what a positive effect it can have on your life. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And something I've noticed in my work with these women are that, you know, when we begin our work together, we create a wellness vision. And a lot of times there are moments when the client realizes there are things that they wish that they had, that they really hadn't had a chance to think about, or there were things that they wish that they could do in their life that would really have a positive impact, you know, professionally, creatively, interpersonally. But in sitting and taking a moment to really think about it and go through it together, their goals, their vision, those things come up. And a lot of us have a hard time taking space to really think about what we want now and what we want for the future, and life just passes by. So I think it's really important to do that. And it's beyond exercise. It can be, I feel lonely and I need to help. I need to be intentional about connecting with people in new ways. Or sometimes it's as simple as movement.
Yeah, there are so many simple strategies that they can implement. And that's a huge part, is the social communication, because especially if you've got peers who are going through the same thing, you can support one another. Whereas in the past, it was like, oh no, let's not talk about this. This is a subject that we don't talk about. But the more we talk, the more we learn. And so I want to ask you, I know we've touched on it briefly, but why is it so much more helpful to work with a coach or a nurse practitioner like you who works with a lot of women in this area, as opposed to checking the internet or trying to read books, self-help books?
That's a great question. So I'm trained with Well Coaches, which is a coaching program that uses lifestyle medicine as its foundation. Lifestyle medicine is evidence-based, and Well Coaches uses an evidence-based approach through coaching psychology. So there's a lot of evidence to the way that I coach. And, we utilize things like motivational interviewing and a process that is proven to successfully allow clients to reach 70% of their goals within a 3-month time period, for example. Some people may just call themselves a coach and may just be giving advice or encouraging, and that's not actually very effective in the end. And, in my coaching, what I do is help a client find their way to health, but I'm not advising them. But what I might do on the side, or in addition to buttress our work together as a coaching client, is to provide evidence-based information that allows the client to navigate their perimenopausal process, their menopausal process, in a clearer, less stressful, more efficient way. For example, someone might say, I heard on this Facebook group, someone was talking about this kind of hormone replacement therapy, and then someone else is getting pellets from this other place, and I don't understand what all the differences are between all of these options. I feel overwhelmed or confused, and everyone's telling me that both of them are the best. So that gives us a chance to kind of go through the information in a very systematic, simplified way, where I can reference reliable sources, and that should help the client make a better decision for themselves.
Right. Yeah. So how do you help women arrive at their best self? Because I think that you not only get to that stage in life and you've got all these health issues, you're going to have hot flashes, some worse than others, but you don't realize all of these other things. And one of the things that you have talked about, and which I've podcasted on or had guests about this, is the anxiety portion, because we just don't recognize anxiety as being a part of the whole perimenopausal journey. And for some, maybe it's not, but for others, it can kind of jump in there really quickly, and you kind of wonder what's happening to you. So how do you help women around that so that they can accelerate their health goals and be their best selves?
How do I help them around the anxiety piece specifically?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of that is helping them understand why and when they're anxious. Is it physiological? Is it triggered by something in their environment? I'm not a therapist, but I will ask questions to them that help them come to the answer. Part of that is education on what different treatments might provide them should they choose to explore that with their healthcare team. Maybe they do want to try a medication for anxiety temporarily. Maybe they do want to try hormone therapy. But so giving them that information, I think, is helpful. And then when we work together, it's important to use somatic exercises and even some mindfulness techniques to calm the nervous system in the moment. And I have some training in mindfulness practices, so I incorporate that. And I, as a student to be a psychiatric nurse practitioner, I'm incorporating some of that as well. But that's not all we do as coaching. That's one piece of it, but it does address the anxiety.
And so many women who are getting to that 40 plus, 50, whatever, that stage of life where they're being introduced to the joys of perimenopause, they also at the same time will start having issues that they haven't had before, maybe high blood pressure or high cholesterol or even diabetes. So how do you help people? Because I love to think of years ago when I started with high blood pressure, not long after I'd had my hysterectomy, and then high cholesterol. When I became a health coach, I managed all of that, and everything kind of changed for me. So do you focus more with your women on what they should be eating? Do you have certain pillars of health that you find helpful for this stage of life? How do you address that?
It's really so individualized, which is the beauty of it. One example I can think of is I had a client who was newly diagnosed with hyperlipidemia, high cholesterol. It was surprising to her. She felt like she was eating really healthy. She was really active, not overweight in any way. And so we talked about what the day-to-day looked like. And she realized eventually that she was eating meals with the family, even though that she didn't really want a full meal. And she was incorporating parts of the meal that maybe appealed to her partner or her teenage children, but weren't some things that she enjoyed eating, and they weren't healthy either. So, she, instead of eating the full portion that might be served at a meal, or instead of eating all of the food that's served at the meal, she is making her own plate in a way that is more enjoyable for her and reflecting on that. So she was habitually eating in a certain way and was able to realize, oh, I'm not even enjoying this. Not only can I be healthier, reduce the amount of foods that are contributing to cholesterol, but I'm also going to enjoy my plate more. And that was a conclusion, I helped her come to on her own. And that's what we do in coaching.
Yeah, the mindfulness eating aspect is when you are working with busy professional women. I think that they all have a tendency to hurry through their lunch, eat at their desk, and not take the time to savor what it is they're eating and how it's helping their body. I know in the corporate world, that's a huge stumbling block because everybody's so busy.
It is. And these things seem so simple, almost too simple. But if, you take a moment or you go through a coaching practice to really reflect on these things, it's amazing what comes to the surface. And small changes or the changes that come from that reflection can be really transformative in someone's life and even bring it into another trajectory.
So what were some of the barriers that you noticed when you worked with or just even observed women who were in perimenopause from your perspective as a clinician?
As a clinician, the number one challenge is having conversations with women after they've been given a lot of misinformation, potentially about why they're having the symptoms that they're having. And it's, for example, a lot of women will ask for lab tests, but we know that your labs are going to be different day to day. For example, we can do a test one day and it may suggest that you're in perimenopause or menopause. The next day it might not. So there's not a lot of utility for labs. And then, there's a lot of confusion around supplements that women have. And we all really want to take our health into our own hands and to be proactive. And it's hard to navigate the conversations around supplements because I know now we know more and more about how supplements can be harmful in some cases. So, or just not helpful for certain conditions, reversing prediabetes or diabetes. Most supplements are not going to be helpful for that, for example. So as a clinician, it's hard for me to navigate those conversations in a way that also communicates to the patient my dedication to them, my genuine concern and investment in their health and their outcomes, because I think a lot of social media sets people up to not trust Western medicine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if you could give our ladies one tip that would really help to springboard them or spring them forward into a healthier lifestyle during menopause, what would it be?
Invest in yourself. Whether or not that's a coaching group or that's a small group of women or a specialty practice, invest in yourself so that you can feel better now and invest in your health for the long term. So whatever that looks like, and that can look like a lot of different things, invest in yourself and take the time to do it. Carve out the time in your busy lives.
Yeah, very important. And where's the best place for people to find you?
People can reach out to me at Menopause on the Mind on Instagram or Brix Wellness, NP as a nurse practitioner.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
I will have all of those links in the show notes for everybody. Thank you so much. I love chatting about perimenopause and menopause, so I've enjoyed the conversation we've had. Thank you, Stacy.
Thank you.
You have been listening to the Living Life Naturally podcast, where we're on a mission to inform, inspire, and encourage women to live their best life confidently, joyfully, and freely from what's been holding them back. For show notes and free resources, visit holistic-healthandwellness.com. And I'd be delighted if you'd follow us on socials to connect further. If you enjoyed this show, why not share it with your friends? If you found good value, chances are they will too. And of course, a 5-star review on iTunes is always greatly appreciated, as much as I appreciate you listening. So until next time, live life naturally and joyfully.